Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 78 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Dratnos, joined by Tettles, as always. Welcome.
Yo, what's up? We're back.
And this week, Trell is still recovering. He's recovering from his appendicitis, but we are joined by special guest Squishei. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. It's great to be back on again.
Squishei,
Yes.
our
Trell.
most common guest, I believe, at this point, but for those who haven't been longtime listeners, you are both a writer, guide writer, data miner guy at Wowhead, and also the raid leader at Might, which is Tettles' guild.
I'm Tettle's boss in a way.
In many ways, one could say.
In multiple ways, actually.
That's true. I do employ Tettles at Wowhead too. That is true.
You actually do employ me in a couple of ways.
And we are not going to hold that against you, though. We are delighted to have you on the show once again. This week, we are going to talk about MDI. MDI is coming up. We'll talk a little bit about our predictions for that. And just some more general discussion around the game as well. I think there are a couple areas that there's been a lot of discussion around. And I think it'd be interesting to definitely hear your perspective on several of these things. First of all, though, how are you guys doing in the raid? How's Might doing working through Castle Nathria?
Well, we're on the best fight ever of the tier, I think. Stone Legion Generals right now, so having a ton of fun. I think we're getting close to 100 pulls deep and just slowly progressing through this fight.
Yes, that is an experience that resonates with me. It took me 259 pulls to defeat Stone Legion Generals. When it died, I felt nothing. I felt no joy, a bit of relief maybe, but that boss is such a tragedy. It's such a tragedy.
What are the odds we kill that boss pre-nerf? Like they're definitely gonna have to nerf that fight soon. Right?
I mean, it's a fight that you just kind of bash your head against over and over again until you start like getting the timings that are good, and also like everybody knows how to deal with all the things that can go wrong.
How long until they fix the curving wicked blade like Angelina Jolie from Wanted? Is that ever just going to be fixed on that fight? Like
that shit is bad. I don't think
they applied a fix to it after or during Race to World First that made it or not during Race to World First, but right after that made it a lot less common. The bugs that still exist with it, I believe, will go to its grave.
So funny story about that. When they fixed that, they broke the normal mode Wicked Blade. General Call on normal mode at that point would not even throw out her blade. It would just leave her hand and spin in a circle. Reported that one. They fixed it, which I'm wondering if just reverted the mythic version, but who knows?
The mythic version, it's not for us. It was like every maybe 20 pulls something weird happened with Wicked Blade, and then like every 10 pulls General Draven would get stuck in the wall. Every 5 pulls, General Draven would either crit or like miss a mob in the intermission, and that scuffs it a little bit. And then there's all kinds of great stuff where, so you know how your tank can like leap the Stone Fist from General Grishal and avoid taking damage from it? If you fail to do that even once in the second intermission, the boss is very likely to overlap the push out of the intermission with a seismic upheaval during that knockback. So it's just completely impossible to counterplay that. You wipe 100% of the time.
We love the spell variants on that fight. The fight is actually so bad.
So spell queuing, like there's a lot of just spell queuing that's like, okay, sometimes this is really hard but not bugged, and sometimes this is really easy, and like that's dumb. But then it's clearly just bugged where if a Stone Fist goes off in the second intermission, it has like maybe a 40% chance to one shot your raid coming out of that intermission. So.
Remember when we thought Jaina spell queuing was bad?
Yes. The Jaina boat was only like 2.5 minutes is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like then you're off the boat. Stone Legion Generals is just 9 minutes of horrific spell queuing.
Dude. So somebody asked me the other day what I thought about Stone Legion Generals, and I was like, I just like looked straight at my camera. I was like, well, if you really think about it, you get 4 encounters inside of one with the immense amount of spell queuing issues inside of Stone Legion Generals. How many other encounters do you have the luxury of being able to get 4 fights inside of one? 0. So that's why Stone Legion Generals is the best boss of all time.
Yeah. The good news is after Stone Legion, there's Sire Denathrius, and Sire to Nathrius is, I think, maybe the best fight they've ever made. It's very close. It's up there. You know, people initially looked at it, especially after Race to World First, and they were like, they compared the pull counts to Sire and Stone Legion Generals, and the narrative is just like, oh, this is too easy, it's disappointment. But it's not actually that easy of a fight. It's just a fight with no RNG spell queuing nonsense. So once you've learned a phase, you've got it, right? You're good. But I would compare it to, like, you ever play a game for just like 8 or 12 hours or whatever, and you're done with the game, but it was a really good game? That's like Bastion for me was a game like that. I don't know if you guys ever played that game. 10 years old now. Really good game. Played it once. Never want to play it again, but it was fantastic. Sire, I think, is kind of in that space where, like, yeah, okay, it's a boss that can die in 100, 150 pulls. But, you know, those 12, 14 hours you spend on it are just phenomenally fun.
I almost think the biggest flaw of Generals was their rule that no ability could ever overlap. And I think that just breaks the fight.
Yeah.
If the Meteor could like land at another time but was slightly nerfed and damaged so that you could do Soaks and Meteor, it would completely fix the fight. And like things would overlap and be challenging at times, but you wouldn't have any kind of variance. You just have to learn the difficult overlaps.
You're going to get crystallized with the Wicked Blade, though, is the problem if they start doing that.
That's fine.
Yeah, as long as you don't need everybody to, like, as long as the mechanics are doing like half as much damage, they can overlap with each other, right?
And then you just have to learn the difficult overlaps like any other fight. Whereas now you just have like 5 abilities that are queued up because the boss can't cast 2 things at once, and you're just like, it could be any one of these, and yeah.
The difference between like getting a Goliath leap on somebody who's just started dodging their seismic upheaval and like getting a Goliath leap when the boss is doing a tank mechanic is night and day. And yeah, I agree. I think that fight was one that it was the recipient of several last minute buffs, right, on the Tuesday of the expansion coming out, or of the Mythic Grade coming out. And I think that was like, they were worried that it would just be too easy for guilds, and I think it might have been at 25% less damage and health, being like a pretty pushover boss. But they basically took a fight that was like bad, and they made it a fight that was bad and hard, and that's not it. That's not the way.
It went through multiple changes too, but so did like Shriekwing and Council, and those 2 turned out actually really well. Whereas this one, I think it just needed more time, really.
I think that there were some fundamental flaws with the idea of the fight. That I think one thing I've heard is that they generally test bosses like phase by phase in internally. And that would make sense to me. That would explain why, like, part of the thing with this fight, because this fight is like, whether you push 3 seconds early or 3 seconds late out of different phases, like, completely changes the whole fight.
Oh, yeah. With the Wicked Blade timer and like the crystallized timer pushing a little bit earlier, a little bit late, really just
we have like
2
second windows that we were pushing consistently the last like 50 pulls that made it so we could actually progress the later phases, and like, man. Wow,
having to kill the Goliath at like an absolutely precise time, getting those commandos dead like at a very clear cut time, and then having your what is it, like 8th orb dunk or whatever. The orb dunk delay, leave it on the floor for a bit and then pick it up and then go dunk it out of the intermission. We are working through all of these problems currently.
Yeah, it's just it's not a fight that ever feels satisfying. Like you never are like, oh, I have learned like some cool way that I will play around this. Instead, it's more like, okay, we have learned some dumb way that we're going to handle this dumb fight because it just did this dumb thing to us. So that's been a fun raid so far. I've been enjoying every other boss outside of Stone Legion. I think has been really good. We killed Sire a couple days ago. So we're taking a week and a half off or something of killing any more bosses. And then we'll be back doing farm. Love being on farm.
Imagine ever taking any time off.
Yeah, well, we killed it on Wednesday, right? So the raid is empty for at least this week. And then next week we're just... We kind of never want to pull Stone Legion Generals again until it's nerfed. So we're thinking about doing like 3 of 10 and then like 8 of 10. And then just leaving it at 8 of 10 and not touching those 2 until Stone Legion gets nerfed.
I'm surprised it hasn't been, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there either. Again, I don't want to harp on a negative on a tier that was overwhelmingly 9 out of 10 bosses I think were really, really, really good. But that one... it's just so
That
it
one's
takes
bad.
so many pulls, right? Like if you actually look at
So-
how long you spend in that raid, it's half on Stone Legion generals, and like I don't know, it's hard for that not to weigh it down.
If they just shave like 20% off the Goliath, I think it'll make the fight a little bit better. The Goliath is a big part of the issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like the spell queuing, like because like the problem is that you have to like relearn your timings every single pull because you're getting more and more. I mean, our issues like early on is that we didn't have like enough cleave to be able to kill the skirmishers whenever we need to. So we needed to adapt and like completely like do a different strategy than what we initially planned on, because we didn't have enough just cleave damage because we don't have 2 Windwalker monks and like 4 DKs and shit, and it's just like, oh my god.
All right, another common discussion that I'd like to have here as well is around gearing. I don't know if to what extent both of you have updated, evolved opinions on gearing over the last couple weeks. How have you guys been feeling that the itemization has gone so far this expansion? I'd say
You go first.
a common complaint has been the like lack of items from raid in particular.
Yeah, I think overall it's been really quick to get full 226s. If you do everything and like I did my stuff through RBGs, Raid, Mythic Plus, and the Great Vault, I'm pretty much full 226 at this point, and this is the fastest I feel like I've been done, except for like trinkets, but those are really, really difficult to get. So if you do everything, it is really, really quick to gear up. But
Hold on.
if you what?
You are a tank, so this is quick for you because you're a tank. This
What?
is not quick
No,
for
no, 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 no.
DPS.
Tanks are like low priority compared to DPS whenever a raid
that's
drop
what I'm
comes
saying.
out.
I feel like
Okay.
whenever
Yeah,
I
you're
feel like
used
I'm
to getting
almost always
funneled.
226 at this point. Yeah.
I see.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like the PvP is like the crucial part of that puzzle. If you were not like interested in doing PvP, you're down like five conquest items in your 5 worst item slots, right? Like which is where you chose to buy them at this point. Whereas I feel like if you took M plus out of that equation, right? Like how many of your items are actually from M plus now, besides Great Vault items that had good alternatives probably in the other slots. So I think that for me, the story of this patch is that like PvP is mandatory for Mythic Raiders and for high M plusers or whatever. Like if your goal is to do any kind of content where your gearing matters, you need to add PvP to your repertoire.
Well, I mean, that's just the thing right now. I mean, you can.
It's not like
you can,
it's. I mean, you could go like another 2 months with just trying to get Great Vault weeklies, but also if somebody is joining the game in 2 months and they're like, okay, what's the best source for me to gear? 1 or 2 days of RBGs will let them purchase 5,000 conquest of items, right? Like that. It is by far. It's not only the source of all of our best gear right now, but it's also the best way to catch up and gear up on an alt.
And also the only thing that you can upgrade that if you get better and
right.
you're 1800 now, but you keep playing, you buy your gear, and then you get to 2100, you're like, let me just upgrade all my gear. I don't need to go refarm or anything like that, which is very unique. Nowhere else in the game can you really do that.
So I'm starting to level a character on EU to do like a pugging series where I'm doing like trying to get Keystone Masters without any help. And I sat there and I was thinking like, how the fuck am I get 200 item level? And I'm just like, I'm going to have to grind arena, aren't I?
Well, I mean, 200 eye level, you can just do daily first one of the day, epic BG, and random battleground, and those you just buy conquest items at 200 unrated.
But like getting to 200 item level, then I'll be able to like get into mythic dungeons, at least in some capacity, and be able to like farm some gear through that. But to be able to get to the point where I'm at 200 item level, I'm sitting there like, how the hell am I supposed to do this by myself? And I'm like, oh, I have to PvP. I don't really have another choice.
I would say that 200 is a lot more attainable now that Renown is caught up as well, because you can just like buy it all with Anima after you finish your Covenant campaign. You get 197s in like all your slots. That wasn't true for the last like 4 weeks. For the last 4 weeks, there was a huge disparity between that, but now like the unrated PvP honor gear and the Anima gear are both 197, which I believe is good. I think that they should maybe do that earlier in the patch cycle next time.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the PvP gearing is really good right now, and I think that several of the characteristics of it should be imported over to Raid and or M+. The characteristic of like there's that conquest bar that's built up. So if you miss a couple weeks and you come back, you can pick up a lot of the value that you missed over those weeks. I think that's the kind of thing that would be really cool to see in some capacity through like a currency from Raid and M+. And also, like Squishei identified, the ability to like, you do a Mythic +7 and you get a good item, and then a couple weeks later you're farming 15s. If you could upgrade that +7 item to a +15 item by virtue of doing that, in the same way that you can upgrade your item you got at 1400 all the way up to 233 at 2300 or 2400, right? If you
Do
eventually
you want to
get
pull
there.
up Squishy's article that compares and contrasts all of the different?
Sure. Do you want to link it
gearing sources?
in the doc?
Yeah, I'll link it in chat. It's
Okay,
definitely an
chat.
interesting article to like look at all the differences and discrepancies between the two, because you would also see PvPers complaining about PvEers like being in their games being like they described it as like geared, but these guys were wearing literally like 210 item level gear.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like that insane at the time. Obviously, this is kind of mellowed out a little bit though.
I think the issue is that if you only really want to do your form of content, it is not good. Like if you just raid, you're getting what on average like just over one piece a week, including your Great Vault. PvPers are getting like 0.7 or something a week, and then Mythic Plusers can't get 226s outside of the Great Vault a week. So everybody is just kind of like really upset because they feel like they're getting nothing from their content. They have to increase their chances by doing other pieces of content to, and then PvP just happens to be the best because it's a really good fill-in slot.
I think that it is good that like the conclusion here, the best way to gear in Shadowlands is to do all the content. I think that's how it should be, and that's how it's always been, right? It's always been true that you were better off by doing all the content, right? Even in BFA, you would get a PvP box and PvP end of match items. You get M+ items, and like one thing about BFA was that the opportunity cost of doing the other stuff was higher, right? Because like anytime you weren't an M+, you could be getting M+ Titanforge items, and so like the argument of I should spend 5 hours doing PvP was a little bit less clear that was better than spending 5 hours doing M+. But this expansion, it's clearly the case that you should do the PvP at least on your characters, and you should do M+ if there's any 210s that would still be upgrades for you, and all that. It does make sense. I just think that like you said, those players, if you did want to do just one thing, I feel like you were so far behind for so long, where like you'll catch up in like a couple months once you've gotten enough Great Vaults, but I don't think it's possible to be like even close to competitive until that time, right?
It's hard to catch up unless you actually through.
I have several characters that are doing this, right? That are doing like a weekly key, and like so in a couple months they're going to be all 226s from Great Vault in all slots, and like that's going to be fine. But that's not really a gearing strategy. That's just like a alt strategy.
Yeah. It's arena or bust right now, especially for deterministic gear, because that's the only catch up, and it's deterministic, right? That's basically all there is for acquiring high quality and high item level pieces. If you only care about getting 210s though, which I mean you shouldn't, but if you only care about getting 210s, then yeah, you can just like spam run 15s. But
yeah, I mean I think that's a good niche for M+, right? The M+ is like a good way to spend the first 2 weeks, and that's its niche is that where it is best is those first 2 weeks, and like PvP maybe where it's best is those deterministic slots, and then Raid has like the theoretical best items, the most 233s and stuff. I think that makes sense. I just think that like kind of the balance is tilted a little bit too much in favor. Like I think that there should be some element of those things that each form of content isn't the best at as well. And similarly, I think that PvP only gear, it's in a fine place right now, but for the first couple weeks, PvP only gearers were sitting with 184 items in most of their slots, and that I also think that shouldn't be the case. I think that the kind of okay, maybe if you wanted 210s in all your pieces, farmably that's M+, but if you just want 200s in all your off pieces, that could drop end of match, right? Random pieces could drop end of match at 200.
There's also the unique thing of 233 weapons. I mean,
yeah.
Trill from Limit got a 233 weapon from his very first box, and like they hadn't even entered Mythic yet.
I didn't realize that was the thing.
The amount of 233, comparing the amount of 233 like sire weapons that are in the world versus 233 elite weapons, it is a very big discrepancy right now for sure.
For sure.
But on the other hand, long term, if you raid, you can get the Sire weapon, 2 armor slots, 2 trinkets at 233. Whereas you could only get the weapons from PvP. So I actually think that it's kind of cool that is like that.
Should there be a way to get it for Mythic Plus?
Should there be a 233 thing for Mythic Plus? Yeah, maybe like I don't know, like if there's an achievement for like timing all the 18s and that lets you get like a 233 cloak or something. That kind of,
What if it was from Keystone Master?
I feel like I feel like M Plus has like weird bars set for it, right? Like you get the title and the mount at Keystone Conqueror and Keystone Master, but like if you actually look at the item level rewards from M Plus, plus 14s and plus 15s are way less achievable for the average player than like 1400 in PvP, right? But if you do 1400 in PvP, you're getting 207 items, right? 1600 in PvP, you're getting 213 items.
Well, that's out of the vault.
No, that's just with conquest purchase, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see exactly.
Whereas if you're doing like the comparable level to like 1400 in PvP is the first breakpoint, the first point above unranked, right?
Yes.
Your Elo or your MMR literally starts at 1500, right? So just by winning and losing an even amount of games over 10 or 15 games or whatever, you'll get up there 20 games. Whereas an M plus, to get comparable items, right, to get those 207s, you need to be doing plus 13, plus 14 keys, right? And that's a lot more of a small slice of the player base right now. You do get the Great Vault items at higher item level. That's the thing. The thing about M plus is that it is the best source of good Great Vault items is M plus, right? It's much easier to get 226 in your Great Vault from M plus than from any other form of the game. But
I think the issue that I see Blizzard typically facing with this is like they don't want to have to rebalance and retool like high level like Mythic Plus. I really think that they want to be super hands off with Mythic Plus, even to a point where we're all getting one shot and random ass keys, and we're like, please God, fix this. They don't want to fix it. They would rather literally you get one shot.
Well, yeah, I think that they want the bar for everything to be okay to be at 15, and then once you go above 15, they kind of want it to be well, you're on your own. You chose this for yourself. We don't have any incentives pushing you into these keys, and that makes sense. Again, I think the gearing system has a lot of good stuff going for it in Shadowlands. I think that they could retool largely by giving some of those benefits that PvP gearing has to the other forms of content. The main thing that I keep coming back to for me personally is that like I'm really invested and experienced in Raid and M+, and very much not invested or experienced in PvP. And by far, PvP is where most of my items come from. And if I was gearing another character, PvP would be where most of my items came from as well. And I think that shouldn't be quite... I mean, it's fine if it's the best option, and if I, as a min-maxer, look at several options and I'm like, okay, PvP, that's the place. But it's like it's not close right now. It's not close, the PvP gear to the others, and I think they should make it closer.
So what are they going to do whenever they add back tier sets?
Yeah, so tier sets... Well, we don't even know if tier sets are going to have set bonuses, or if it's just like, okay, now we have cosmetic differences between paladins and warriors, right?
I didn't even think about it like that.
Because right now there's no cosmetic difference between all the plate wearers, right? And tier sets could be as little as just a new appearance for each thing. But yeah, if there's a set bonus for tier sets, that would be a big buff to raid gearing, right?
Well, they've said that they want tier sets to be available to all forms of content, no matter what you do. So is it going to be one separate tier bonus, one for raid, one for Mythic Plus, one for PvP, only for that content?
Oh,
and
God.
You need, like 10 different gear sets?
Look, man, if my bags need to be like 70 different purple items like they were during Corruption, I'm gonna spit. I'm not gonna be happy about that. That's that would be a really unfortunate turn of events. So I hope that they come up with an elegant solution to the tier sets.
What do you think that they're gonna do? What do you think they would do?
I mean, if they just can drop from all of 3, and you can reasonably get your tier set from being like reasonably invested in any of those 3 forms of content, and then it just has like, generically good, cool tier set effects for your spec.
And it's one tier set?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that's the
I'm
best.
gonna have to.
best
What you're saying, whenever you say that aloud, means that I'm going to have to arena again next season, so I can buy a hat, a back piece, pants, and hands.
Well, the tier. What if the tier set was like there's like a tier set currency, so it was like time gated in a shared fashion across all three forms of content, right? You could buy one tier set a week, whether you M plus, or one tier item a week, whether you M plus, raid, PvP, or all three, right? There's like a cap, a weekly cap on how much you could get. That kind of thing could make it so you didn't feel obligated to go do all three. On the other hand,
my Blizzard Entertainment would not do that, but maybe.
Well, doing all three is already better is the thing, right? Like I don't have a problem with doing all three being the best. I just have a problem with doing all three being like more than 3 times better than doing any one by itself, which it feels like it is right now.
What if it can only roll randomly on pieces and can drop from the Great Vault? And there's like 54 of different versions of them.
Okay.
We can call it corruption tier sets.
I like this idea. Yeah.
So when do the horrific visions come in?
Oh, that would be Dratnus' content there.
Well. Yeah,
Hold on, you have to go into Torghast to upgrade them.
Okay, you just set foot in Torghast and you just see a sanity bar, and you have like 3 minutes to clear all through floor 6 that run, or else you're depleted.
Or you can't get an upgrade for that whole week.
You're just like rushing through Torghast. You're like, ah.
And you only have a limited number of attempts that week. You can't get any more.
Yeah, that's dude. Those disconnects. I cannot overstate how many people came into my chat and like hated the game for the fact that they disconnected in one of their horrific visions that patch. Which like I understand. I mean, it was bad. It was rough.
That shit sucked.
They kind of fixed it with Torghast, but it honestly, like, when the first few weeks of Torghast, I was always like, oh yeah, you only lost like 3 floors or whatever. Now with Twisting Corridors, it's like, oh, you lost 16 floors in 1.5 hours of your life when you disconnected?
Well,
wait, it took you guys an hour and a half to clear one layer?
Not me, but like, it's a common amount of time for the higher layers for a lot of people.
Okay, I don't know. I guess Moonkin's fucking stupid sometimes.
I did group for the last couple layers. We had like sub 30-minute Torghast. It was really sweet.
Really? Yeah.
We played.
I was at
Death Knight has a really overpowered power for it. Chains of ice, linking mobs' health pools together, and then we had like the same build we went on everybody each time, and it was like a well-honed machine going through that place. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which shouldn't work, by the way. Going into Torghast with a build in mind and then being able to make it just come together every time, that shouldn't be a thing, by the way. That's not how roguelikes should work.
That's not how roguelikes work, actually.
Yeah, but whatever. NVD. Have you... okay, last mini topic before we start on our MDI bit. What do you guys think of the Beast of Prodigum Torghast event? Tettles, do you have a favorite mob beast?
Dude, I don't know what you just said.
I know Squishei does, because Squishei wrote the article that said the Beast of Prodigum event is now live, so...
I did.
I haven't done any Beast of Prodigum Torghast yet myself, but how have you been enjoying it?
It's a fun little mini event. Like, I mean, that's what it is, just spices up. I mean, there's no unique reward, so just like for your weekly Torghast clear, you get an extra bloodlust every 40 seconds, because that's the one you should probably pick.
You only get offered 2 each time, right? But you can like re-roll them. You can't re-roll your other starting powers, but you can re-roll your beasts.
Yeah, it's weird, but
so you just run out and run back in until you get the one you want.
The silence one is not good at all. The tank one is okay, but I mean the only thing you do with dogs is if there's like one build you can do with your dog. While it's alive, it gives you lust, and then you just want it to die so it explodes whenever it dies.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean,
because there's only like one epic power. There's only one epic power for Beast of Prodigum, so that's the one. Like that's the one build that is allowed by it, right?
Or is that why I got 4 power choices whenever I zoned in Torghast this week? Oh, the 2 that I got both times were just bad, and I ended up picking the my Convoke one both times. I got good power choices, so I was like, oh, I didn't even realize it was a thing.
The only thing I like about the dogs is that you can make them pick up all your loot for you. That's that's quality of life. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like
there's the treasure goblin thing too, which is kind of cool. It's just like a nice little reference to Diablo treasure goblins. But other than that, it's a nice cool thing for your weekly Torghast. But it's not like, the next special event in a month, are people really going to seek out and be like really excited to run it if there's nothing special? Because I feel like most people have their Soul Ash at that point.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in having a stockpile of Soul Ash and crafting like all the legendaries I might want, but I still can't. I can't bring myself to go there again. I don't know. Uh, I just like I guess I'll just do it when I need the item. I have a couple thousand Soul Ash on my guys. There's not going to be anything urgent, but it's a shame. I don't know. I love roguelikes. I love I've sunk a lot of time into various different roguelikes. I love World of Warcraft. I've sunk a lot of time into like Horrific Visions even. But Torghast just not scratching that itch.
Yeah, the one build, and if you don't get it, it just kind of just feels bad, and you kind of do no damage. So it's
yeah,
kinda...
there's like no creativity really with what you're doing in there. Besides, like there are a couple of specs that have like 2 power combos that you need to know about, and then you can like be sure to pick them or higher than you otherwise would.
Yeah.
And then it's like neither difficult nor like a cakewalk, right? It's neither like
it doesn't feel rewarding.
yeah,
is the
it's not
biggest
like
problem for
engaging
me.
difficulty or anything. It's not like there's like cool stuff to dodge. For the most part, the mechanics are just like, okay, this thing has a lot of health and damage. Like, is your build OP enough?
Yeah, and I mean, if you fail, you just feel like you wasted time, and it's not like you don't feel like you did anything right or wrong. You just feel like you got a bad build.
I much preferred the Horrific Visions fights themselves, because like each of the wing bosses in Horrific Visions like had actual mechanics that were going on, where there's like a lot of dodging or interrupts or stuff, and like some of those were some of them were pretty dumb. They got old reasonably quick, but like I enjoyed fighting Thrall every time because like he had like 5 mechanics that he did, but all the wing bosses in Torghast were there. It's like, all right,
you either
you
blow them
interrupt
up or...
this or you dodge this one thing, and then like it does a lot of throughput on you, and good luck. I don't know. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, I think I mean I assume you played Hades.
Yeah, Hades is my favorite game of the last couple of years for sure.
I was just thinking, like, imagine if you could like get powers from the different covenants, borrow covenants powers. Like, you could have all 4 covenant abilities if like for your class. That's already built into the game. Just let you have fun with it. And I mean, I said at the beginning for Torghast, I find it a little weird that they're tuning Torghast when it's just kind of like a sandbox that is just kind of just go wild.
Yeah.
So
it's a really tough challenge they've put for themselves, because there's kind of like there needs to be enough powers for every spec class combo and every covenant class combo, right? There needs to be like enough powers.
Yeah.
And so they've met that minimum requirement such that you can like do a run and not run into that placeholder bug thing when you run out of powers. But like they've barely met that amount. And so like ideally each spec and class would have maybe 5 times as many powers to choose between. But it's not as simple as them just, going for one spec class combo that has like, 30 powers or whatever and increasing that to 150. They would need to go across the board and, quintuple what is already a huge library of powers that you basically never see on any given character, right? On any given character, 98% of the Torghast powers that have ever been created are just not even options because they're for other classes or other specs or other covenants or whatever. And so there's so much diminishing returns to like any work that would go into increasing diversity. But to me, that is the thing that would make it better. But I don't see how they could really do that because they've really, painted themselves into a corner here.
Yeah. I mean, the Torghast is supposed to span the entire expansion. We'll have to see what they do, because...
For me, much better than like spending time on Torghast side events or whatever would be just like buckling down and adding more new exciting builds to different specs. There's supposed to be this thing in a roguelike where you go in and you're like, okay, what am I going to do today? And maybe there's a couple of overpowered builds and you're looking out for one and you get like something early that facilitates like, okay, I got the Immorora power, now I'm an Immorora build or whatever, I'm going to try and make this happen. But there's really not that to any meaningful extent in Torghast, so I think that's what they should try and add as like a long-term thing rather than just like short-term bursts of, okay, we'll make this new by having something you've never seen before, even if it's not interesting.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to upgrade your own you're gonna have to upgrade your legendaries next patch and shit too.
Oh yeah. I mean, just the fact that roguelike, like, if you play a roguelike, you expect to fail. Whereas I feel like in World of Warcraft solo content, it is a lot of people think you probably shouldn't fail.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just the opposite of what a roguelike is supposed to be. So it's just a really tough balance for Blizzard to solve. And in general.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's hard to make content that is like fun and interesting, and also where like 98% of runs are a success, right, for most players. Which, if it's any less than that, people feel there's a lot of complaints about it, right? Horrific Visions were a good example of this. Like Horrific Visions were pretty tough. There's a lot of people, almost everybody I'd say, had the experience of going into Horrific Vision and getting not everything they wanted out of it, and like the feeling of like, oh no, I'm forever behind, was very, very pervasive. So yeah, I don't know. I liked those. I thought the first like 4 months of Horrific Visions were actually sweet. It was a great
You're
system.
a fucking psychopath.
Look, it stopped being fun when you were like farming Malefic cores or whatever, but those first like when you were progressing the first way up through, I had a lot of fun in there. It was really sweet.
I agree with that.
The first time I did a 5 mask by myself was the most fun.
Yeah.
Everything else after that was like, this fucking sucks.
Okay. Still, there was a lot of meaningful progression up to that 5 mask as well, right?
I agree.
It's like up to and building your first rank 4 legendary, you've already done like 10 repetitive Torghast that were not any fun, right?
Oh yeah.
Whereas up to upgrading your cloak to rank 12, that was all good. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely Horrific Visions suffered from getting bad after a time, of course.
Yeah. I feel like Trados and I could talk about roguelikes for the entire episode.
Love roguelikes. They're so fun. Anyways, I guess we should move on to our what was ostensibly our main topic this week, which is MDI. MDI is coming up, starting the time trials are going on right now, and the cup is next weekend, the first cup. We haven't quite decided what our schedule is going to be for these MDI weeks. Unlike last season, it wasn't every week, right? This season it's like 1 week on, 1 week off, and this weekend is like the AWC weekend, which I've been enjoying the AWC. I've been watching that, but
I've been watching the shit out of AWC too.
Yeah, that's kind of sweet. I honestly, I've been appreciating YouTube more and more now that the Twitch like purple screen that's like, oh hey, an ad should be playing right now. It is nice that YouTube does not have that. I've been enjoying the YouTube stream
God for that actually.
For that. But yeah, I've been enjoying AWC. We're still going to do the show, at least as of right now, obviously at the same time as AWC. I don't know what we're going to do over the next MDI season. I don't know if what we did last time was we moved to like Wednesdays. We're talking about it. We'll talk with Trell about it more. We'll see what we want to do. So if you're interested in knowing when our next show is going to be, we're not actually 100% sure of when that'll be, but it'll be in the next 10 days at some point. So check our Twitter for an announcement on that whenever we do make a decision. But
it'll be like midweek, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at like 3 Pacific or something like that, 2 Pacific, something like in the middle, like right after Charles done with work kind of deal, but before the rest of us have to raid in the middle of the week. Yeah,
again, assuming Trell is up for it and also not too busy with MDI practice and stuff, which
he's certainly shackled away.
He's working there. He got one of my guildies in there with him. Doing some keys.
He's got my arena partner in there with him
too. So let's talk a little bit about MDI, because of course MDI is something that we do like. And again, for those, we may have some listeners here who don't actually know what MDI is because they're new to Shadowlands or whatever, returning. It's the Mythic Plus esport of World of Warcraft, and the keys are being run at level 18 this time around. It looks like that's what I've seen, which I think is a pretty good number to aim this competition at. And here is the first set of time trial dungeons. So this is what the players are running right now: Halls of Atonement, Theater of Pain, and Spires, with these delightful combinations of affixes. This is, I don't know, tell us, have you heard any rumblings from people on the tournament realm about any of these three keys?
I think I saw something about Halls of Atonement being colloquially known as Halls of Asshole, but I don't know exactly why. It's probably due to the necrotic, if I had to guess.
Inspiring is also a pretty toxic MDI affix for the purposes of like
both
MDI polls. I mean, we had these affixes last week, right? These are just the live affixes from last week.
And 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, yeah.
3 weeks ago, yeah, 2 weeks ago, because it's Tyrannical Week right now.
Whatever
right?
it is, yeah. The last Tyrannical Week, not.
Yeah. Because last week, the Fortified Week was good.
Yeah.
There's a team of mostly my guildies that just doing MDI, and they've had some stories. So yesterday, in addition to wiping in Theater of Pain for a really long time, they used up a real key instead of a practice key by accident because somebody
Oh
just
no.
toggled the button.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's if you are ever on the MDI tournament realm, you got to make. I have weak auras actually that like air horn you whether you're in practice mode or not when the ready check comes out at the start of or right before a MDI key on the TR. So hit me up if you need those. Anybody? I should have given those to my guildies actually. Other than that, so Halls is the tyrannical one. We've got 2 fortified keys. I kind of feel like an MDI setting, it's actually fortified that is the harder of the 2 level 2 affixes. I don't know if that if you have a pushback on that, but I feel like tyrannical is pretty
I think
easy.
you're probably right.
I'd say it's riskier because your tank is probably more at risk of dying from going fast, especially on trash, which hurts really, really badly on Fortified Week this expansion so far. So that's probably what I would say. It bounces more to Knife's Edge when you're competing against another team rather than the timer. Like it doesn't matter how fast you go versus the timer; it's just how fast you go versus the other team. So
yeah.
How do you feel about them all being only like actual affixes like that are in game? Because
those are all affixes that are on the calendar. I kind of like that. I kind of like that, especially for time trial keys. I think that can help close the gap between the tournament realm guys and the live key guys. Like, I think anything that helps out live key pushers is good because MDI has kind of been dominated by teams that don't actually do the live keys so much and just show up and blast the TR. So I think that adding more incentive to playing live keys is a good thing.
I think it also just shows like problem spots or how like creative solves to things that happen in the MDI that people can actually do on live. Whereas if you have like a fixed combo that just doesn't exist, there are strategies that you see that like, that's cool. How can I put this on live? Oh, it just doesn't work as well or something.
So our time trial runs are starting to filter in as well. We don't have too many of the like top teams yet. In fact, just too many teams at all have gone in just yet. But we're starting to see what comps are looking like here. I'm feeling pretty happy about how these do look. I would say
the dungeons are supposed to be done on Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah, so that we'll see most of that. There's kind of a meta of doing your runs at the latest possible time, partially just so you can practice longer, and also to obfuscate so that other teams don't know what times they have to beat in each of these dungeons. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see some runs starting to show up tomorrow as well from more teams.
They're playing Disc Priest.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my interesting thing. I could see that for like Halls, because Halls you want a Venthyr of some sort.
Resto Shaman can play Venthyr.
Yeah. But for like Theater of Pain, I'm not exactly sure what that one's for, because I mean, you only need Necrolord.
Well,
it's for power infusion on the hunter is what it actually is for.
It's so that you can skip all your pridefuls. You press your Shadow Meld button and the prideful goes away and you save a lot of time.
Yeah.
Shaman can't do that. Shaman do not have the button that says we skip all 5 pridefuls in this dungeon for free. Like that is a lot of time.
The only healers that have meld are monk, druid, and priest, right? And like
paladins and shaman can't meld.
I don't know. Resto druid is like it's okay, I guess. I think the power infusion for the hunter is probably the bigger deal, though.
I think that's
the damage value.
I think that's big as well, but I think that a lot of this is just the strength of meld. Like we've seen this several times before, but I think that it's once again it's just so good to have Shadow Meld.
So
across your whole team.
For the top 2 teams in the Theater of Pain runs are teams that we have seen before. That was the ethical team and the top one in the Theater of Pain was like the ethical team. I mean, I think Arrow is gone, and now Chompy's moved to DPS. And then the Asheville Furrow Ando one was the Self-Reliance team ish.
Yeah.
So both of those teams are actually competitive. So we can look at their comp too and try to get like more of a gauge of what people are going to be running a lot as well, I think.
Yeah, so in the DPS slots for Theater, both these teams agreed on Windwalker, Fire Mage. And then in the Halls runs, we don't actually have the MDI veteran teams up there, but these teams have largely agreed on Balance Druid, Windwalker, as well as DPS comps there, which all of these runs so far have made me feel pretty good about my predictions. So I had a prediction article on Radar.io about MDI comps. My prediction was Vengeance tank, Resto Shaman or Disc Priest healer, and then 3 of these 4 DPS specs that we're seeing in these top 2 runs from each dungeon. So patting myself on the back a little bit so far. Hopefully that holds when the other teams get there. Of course, it is very early.
What do you think about Unholy Death Knight?
So Unholy is good. It's just it's dungeon specific where you're going to want it. I think there are more Windwalker dungeons than there are Unholy dungeons.
Okay.
And I was kind of surprised to not see him in halls, but because I felt like you could play Unholy in there. So yeah, I would kind of expect to see some of that. But maybe they're thinking, okay,
isn't that just necrotic?
Oh yeah,
your pulls are limited by necrotic.
So
you get 1 cleanse every 5 minutes and.
That's a really good point. Well, your tank has a Kyrian file as well.
Yeah. Well, they can't be stone
one every 5
this tier.
Okay,
right?
yeah, that's what you're talking about with the yeah. So maybe in halls you'd see it more if it wasn't necrotic. I think that's a good guess. And then Spires we haven't seen any runs show up for yet, so that one's gonna be cool. Spiteful, fortified Spires.
So I think that dungeon's going to have like the most interesting routes. I think across the whole entire season, I think that dungeon is probably going to be like super weird.
My bet is that in the MDI, we're going to see like a big pull in the 3rd boss room, which is very different from live keys. But I think that sort of, because that's like the only place that you can actually pull a lot of trash together. Whereas in all the other spots in the dungeon, you're gated by those stupid angels flying you places, right? And you can't just combine from multiple pulls, but there is this place where you actually have a bunch of mobs that actually live together and can be pulled.
I think they're gonna meld a lot of the garbage stuff at the beginning, and then I think they're gonna do a big pull after that. Ooh, China actually has a bunch of times posted for their stuff.
Ooh, I will take a quick gander over there then. All right, yes, we have teams also posting. So the Chinese, the way that it's working is there's a global region, and then there's all the regions except for China are in one bracket, and then China have their own thing going.
Why the fuck does the top team have a blood DK?
Yeah, there's very diverse takes here.
Wait a second, bro.
Yeah, so they actually have different. Oh no, they have different time trial. They have a necrotic wake as one of their keys.
Why the fuck they have a blood DK team?
They have a different set of affixes in halls. They're also playing mostly Vengeance. It looks like they're actually quite liking the blood DK over there though.
I think China has always preferred Blood Decay, not just in Mythic Plus, but also in Raid.
Yeah,
true.
Historically, it's been you've seen a lot of Blood Decay's outlaw rogues, also from the logs in that region. So kind of not surprising to see those pop up here as well.
I have a bad feeling if their top team is posting times the Blood Death Knight though.
I mean this is like
and a Resto Shaman, meaning that they don't have 5 meld team.
This the top Spires run so far on this leaderboard is barely a 2 chest.
I mean the same team that posted the top Spires run also posted the top Necrotic Wake run.
Right, and all of these are 2 chests at best. Whereas I don't know to what extent it's going to be 2 this time, but I kind of expect that we're going to see a lot of like if you look at the theater here, we're looking at a 3 chest in the global region as the top run, and I expect that we'll continue to see that. Like I expect that all the rank 1 keys for these 3 will be 3 chests in the global region. Like the global region though, there's probably several teams that still haven't posted their runs yet in the China region.
Dude, okay, it's insane to me because like there is a Chinese like live key team that is literally like, what are they, number 2 group, number 3 group in the world, something like that, and then it's just like. I don't want to say that it's kind of troll, but I think that Blood DK comp and that Prot Paladin comp being at number 2 for the Necrotic Wake may not be what you're hoping to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see teams playing their favorite specs, having fun on them. I think that's good. I think it's also part of it is like, if you're not in a region with a bunch of people playing the meta specs or whatever at the top, then you don't have to. You're a little bit less. If you're trying to compete with like Wunderbar or Golden Guardians in the global region, and you're not only playing like less hours and less experience and less mechanically skilled as them, but you're also playing worse specs than them, it can feel really bad. So there's a lot of pressure on the comp.
Yeah. Okay.
But if everybody in the region kind of agrees that that several top teams are just going to kind of YOLO it. I think that can be fine.
All right, I just did some quick research into the live key scene, and the top Chinese team is basically at the exact same IO as the IQ mode group, the IQ mode Krona squad. They're both at 2,300, which, I mean, they're playing a Vengeance Demon Hunter on this team, right? They're playing, what are they playing? Vengeance Demon Hunter, Disc Priest, Fire Mage, Balance Druid, Outlaw Rogue. So they're playing like a really meta comp.
There are a lot of people who like to do live keys that will not touch the MDI and vice versa as well, right? Like there's not too much.
There's a different skill set.
Yeah,
it is a very different skill set. That's a good point.
There's a lot of stuff that's transferable between the two. The best players often do both, but a lot of the best players in one form of content aren't too interested in doing it the other way as well. Anyways, of course, one big thing we didn't talk about when we were looking at these comps is there's a new rule that says you can't class stack anymore. So that is a vital piece of the puzzle here. If you're wondering why we're not seeing like Double Hunter, if you're wondering why we're not seeing Havoc Demon Hunter, Havoc Demon Hunter, you're not allowed to have one if you have Vengeance Demon Hunter. So that's the only reason. That's the only reason they're not showing up. It's otherwise, of course, we'd be playing it, but we're contractually not allowed to. Yeah, Shadow Priest. I guess probably not an MDI spec, but
shout out Quad Windwalker from Legion.
Yeah, Quad Windwalker one tank.
That was the lead comp.
That was the upper Karazhan. Any upper Karazhan enjoyers? Yes,
that was that good shit. I played Havoc Demon Hunter there. I didn't elect to go with the fourth Windwalker spot.
Dude, those are some simpler times in the MDI for sure.
The MDI was a fucking fiesta, man. That was good shit.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about let's just finish out this discussion. Then we'll do tip of the week. Then we'll do the patrons. Then we'll do Q&A. I think that's the best order to do these.
We got one more thing. Utility and dungeons.
So let's do that now.
Okay, and then we'll do tip of the week. Okay.
And then I feel like that'll flow best. So, speaking of comps, one thing that all these comps are going to be looking for, particularly in the Venthyr dungeons, is a Venthyr, like you mentioned, Squishei. Basically, the way that it's working, if you look at these specs, is Kyrian and Fae are covered multiple times, right? You've got your tanks love being Kyrian, your Windwalkers love being Kyrian, your Hunters, your Boomkins, your Mages love being Fae, or Kyrian in the case of the Boomkins. Both of those are allowed right in the MDI titles.
Yeah.
So
you can even go Venthyr in the MDI for Boomkin.
Yeah, so the question starts to come down to, all right, do we want the Venthyr or Necrolord for those dungeons where they're allowed, and what's the best way to get it? And it turns out that, the healer, particularly the priests, they love playing Venthyr, the healer priests. The shaman can play either Necrolord or Venthyr, and they're pretty happy with either as well. So it looks to me like it's mostly just going to be your healer. And I think the thing is, in Theater of Pain, I don't know if this run had a Necrolord, this top run.
I'm going to wager a guess at no.
Because the priest, it's what, Unholy Nova or whatever? Unholy
Nova, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not terrible from what I know, but...
So maybe they told their healer to do that, but I think it's a lot lower impact, those like that movement speed and burst buff.
Yeah, Windwalker has to play Weapons of Order, I would say, because of a lot of their AoE damage. Mage has to be Night Fae. Can Hunter play Death Chakram? I think the answer is probably not.
No. Nope.
No.
All right. Hunter apparently cannot play Death Chakram.
Your DH could play Necrolord. It's just a big damage loss, but you could. It's tanky is slight. It's roughly as tanky.
I mean, the only big deal with the Vengeance playing it is like they lose threat, the ability to gen threat.
Yeah, the Elysian Decree for Snap Threat is actually really big in keys. So my guess is that these teams are either not playing a Necrolord in the Necrolord dungeons, or they are making their priest do it. And then if it's the Shaman teams, will get their Necrolord that way.
I mean, the banners in Theater are 10% verse, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's 10% damage for 10 minutes each. Like,
it's 5 minutes each, I think.
Is it 5? I thought it was 10.
Pretty sure it's 5, but I'm not 100% sure.
Either way, it covers a significant portion of the dungeon, so it's like 10% more damage for however long. Like, is your priest going, a different covenant actually worth that?
You're right. It's
And
probably worth them playing Necrolord.
and
I
it's
think
movement speed too. So like you're
yes,
running a lot in
5%.
Theater of Pain. That was 10% too, but
Oh, is it?
I thought it was 10% movement speed for 5 minutes, but yeah, the numbers are all either 10s or 5s for all those values in the banner. So whatever.
The banner is good. Is the point?
Yeah. So you're right. They probably have their priest doing it. That would make sense to me. And then yeah, of course, if you're playing a shaman, you get that. One thing that like in the Venthyr dungeons, I think you do need a Venthyr for both Venthyr dungeons. They're so impactful. The gargoyles and the lanterns both seem good, but the healers can just naturally play Venthyr very easily. So I think that's a very easy swap to do for them.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely do agree with that.
How about Bloodlust? Bloodlust is an effect that.
So I think instead of trying to cover it in the MDI, I think we try to cover it in live keys now.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think MDI shit's gonna be just weird anyway, so we can circle back later.
All right. So let's talk about let's do covenants then in live keys, because to what extent do you think it's feasible to do live key pushing without a member of a given covenant?
probably up to like 20 is probably doable.
I think that without a Necrolord is just fine. It's fine to just not have a Necrolord in your group. I think if you're trying to do actual key pushing without a Venthyr and Halls of Atonement, you're gonna feel it. And if it's rare that you'd be playing without a Fae, but if you don't have a Fae for the AoE stun and the other side, I think you're also gonna feel that pretty hard.
Depends on what you're doing. I think it's really good for like the rage cast and the big
Yeah.
cast guy, but like in the other zones, I don't think it's too impactful. Like you can just replace it with something else.
That's fair. I guess it depends a little bit on how you plan to use it, because you can pull like the 4-pack right before Hakar back onto it, and that makes that pack a lot faster and easier.
For sure.
How about you, Tuttles? Do you have thoughts on the Covenant bonuses and how important they're feeling?
I think the Necrolord ones definitely seem to be the least important, just for live key pushing. But I do think at some point you're going to need, like the top runs, I think are going to have access to that Covenant. I mean, right now, a lot of the runs aren't gated by DPS damage. They're gated behind people doing really bad routes, and like they're gated behind like just not having deaths, because the top runs in the world currently have like 5 deaths on a lot of them as well, and they're playing like suboptimal routes. So like the routes will develop a little bit more as we see weeks go on, and so once those do start to get a little bit more solved, then the Covenant buffs will start to be more mandatory, I will say. But I don't know how the issue gets solved, especially since you're not as flexible.
I think you just make your healer play whatever you're missing. Like again, you have a Kyrian and a Fae.
Shamans?
No, you just make your Resto Shaman play Venthyr. A lot of Resto Shaman are going Venthyr for keys.
Well, then where are you gonna get the Necrolord?
You don't.
You don't?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like whatever. Don't
I
need
think
this.
like you could probably do every dungeon without the Covenant buffs up to like 20. I'd probably say, with like good routing and good play. I think the Night Fae ones are probably the least impactful.
Okay.
Venthyr definitely the most.
I mean, Plaguefall 22 has been done without Necrolords.
Oh, I mean, I think Plaguefall is one of the weakest, other than like Miss.
Yeah.
And the Urns. I think Janos doesn't agree too much, but
I don't know. The Kyrian Spears are really good. That's fair. The Kyrian Spear Inspires is a really, really big one.
The Anima Exhaustion in Necrotic Wake is fucking OP.
Yeah, Necrotic Wake has a lot of OP stuff that like the weapons are also really OP.
Yeah. Look,
Good
that
use of that.
spear for the final angel is, I feel like, almost necessary in its current state. Because
Yeah.
that final angel before Devos, if you don't have a spear, you kind of just die. So,
Dude, I cannot believe that you just like an angel just lifts you up and brings you up there, and there's just 3 Shadows of Zul up there looking at you. You have to just fight them back to back to back. That's so wild. I can't believe they would do that to us.
yeah, they need to make them cast Shadow Bolt too on your tank so that tanks can't mitigate it.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that those fights, those things don't hit your tanks hard enough right now. So they do a lot of damage to the rest of your group, but tanks I think could be hit a little harder by the angels. How about Bloodlust and Battle Res? Because of course Bloodlust now does not have a good alternative. Drums a lot worse. And of course Battle Reses, NG Reses still exist. But I think that the Bloodlust thing has become a pretty important part of a high key pushing comp.
So I can't tell if Bloodlust is important or if the Bloodlust specs are just that.
They're also good.
The Bloodlust specs are really meta right now. So you have Hunter, Mage, and Resto Shaman, which are all meta in some capacity, or I feel like you have one of these present basically in every single. I feel like if you don't have one of them present in your group, I don't know how the hell you formed a good comp. Like, obviously you can play where the fuck you want.
You haven't, yeah.
But like in terms of meta stuff, you at least probably have one Lust spec in there. So I can't tell if the Lust is more mandatory or if it's just the meta comps are bringing the Lust kind of deal.
You're right. We're gonna have to wait to see really when those specs become less meta, whether you're still like bringing one in for a Bloodlust. I guess you probably won't because Lust is such a small percentage of the time.
I will say that drums don't feel good this expansion.
Drums do feel bad.
They do not feel good. Like when you can help it, it's just like, well, I want a real Lust. Who could come? Who could come to this key? Like even just doing 15s, like drums just don't feel good, man.
Drums definitely.
I kind of wish they just deleted them rather than like neutered them. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about drums. NG res still feels good. Still feels nice to have. Although of course a lot of B res specs are also relatively meta. Druids have that, for instance. Always would recommend for anybody pushing M+, engineering. This expansion, it's more of a no-brainer than ever because there's no good professions. There's no need to be like jewel crafting and blacksmithing for 233 items or whatever. You can't do. There's no good items that the professions make. So be engineering and have your other profession be a gathering profession, enchanting for money making, or alchemy for your flask lasting longer. That would be my recommendation for anybody playing this patch.
Have you seen that CC item from engineering, Dratnos? I think I linked it to Tettles. It's called Soul Trap.
No, what's it do?
Hold on, let me find it real quick.
Okay, yeah, I've used several engineering items in my day. I've used target dummies. I've used bombs, various engineering bombs. I still use my old shield belt to survive Sire to Nathrius. That has saved me on several different pulls on that fight for a little 2000 shield. All right, let's take a look at this Soul Trap thing.
It is a 60-second cyclone.
Okay.
I have no idea if there's any use.
But
I thought it was
good.
funny.
Yeah, cyclone for 60 seconds. I mean, I feel like that would be pretty good. I bet that has utility. Like if the mob, especially if the mob can't be like backfired and stuff. Do love that this has a chance to backfire. That's that's always what you like to see on this sort of effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just like, it's a 60-second cyclone. Can apparently also be used in arena as an 8-second cyclone.
What? That can be used in arena?
According to the comments, I've never used it myself, but
that's wild.
He told me that, and I told him there's no way.
There's no way, right?
In arena.
Yeah, somebody in the comments is saying this lasts 8 seconds versus enemy players. Wait, somebody says you can use this in arena in the comments. Okay, yeah, that's wild.
I refuse to believe that. You can't use any engineering item ever in arena. I literally refuse to believe that is usable in arena.
New meta.
Hey,
new meta.
Tettle's just like bowling this over right now.
Well, there's no fucking way.
He's so mad. Oh my god, Tettles, calm down, dude.
He's gonna convoke and walk into it.
As soon as I get RMP'd, fucking my healer gets polymorphed into this dumbass trap. I would just mauled.
Other than that, Disease Dispel, Plague Fall seems really, really valuable to get access to that utility when you can.
Is it mandatory?
No, I don't think it's mandatory.
Okay.
At hierarchies, I think it's getting close because your tank, like, it's reduced health for your tank, like reduced agility, so your defenses are like severely weakened.
You can Kyrian file it. Your tanks are always Kyrian basically, and so you have like a file in that crash section. Every Kyrian player in your group has a file on Last Boss. Last Boss spells are really nice to have as well, though. But you don't need them.
Yeah, I'd say if you're pushing, I'd say it's mandatory. If you're doing like a 15 key, it sucks, but it's doable.
Yeah, so I guess kind of in the same place as the Covenant buffs in the dungeons. And then kicks, interrupt timings. One thing that's really nice, there's a lot of stuff that Shaman Kick covers, like the Spires mobs, the Goliaths.
Goliath.
Yeah, 12-second kick perfectly covers that. Whereas melee kick, you'd have to use 2 on that, and there's a lot of other stuff to kick in a lot of those pulls.
Necrotic Wake, they can get every single... Oh god, which mob is it in the first
the fear
area?
Is it the Fear Warriors, or is
Is it the Suck, or is it the
Flesh?
The Shield?
Ah,
is it
okay.
the Shield?
I thought it was the Flesh.
I thought it was the Throw Flesh guy too.
Interesting. Okay.
I thought it was the Suck.
Yeah, that's good. So that's definitely a big piece of utility that Resto Shaman is bringing right now. I don't know. I wouldn't describe this as why people are bringing Resto Shaman. Every time somebody's like comes in my chat and is like, "Why is Resto Shaman good?" People like start to just like list things that it does that is unique, including stuff like the short CD kick. But I don't think that really explains any of why people are playing Resto Shaman right now. It's like people are playing Resto Shaman because it does the most healing, and it had the shortest CD kick in BFA, and people didn't play it, right? Like that's
it has the best throughput, and it has a utility suite that is compelling.
Yeah, like it's nice that it has some utility, but the short CD kick stuff to me, that's making the best use of your Resto Shaman, but it's not like why the spec is seeing play, right?
They also changed it to where a lot of their healing comes through Riptide, so they're able to just kind of like passively heal you up now too, as opposed to having to like hard cast heals over and over again.
I think there's no coincidence that the Riptide, like the spec moving away from Chain Heal and into Riptide, has been good for an M+. Like that seems like a clear Chain Heal is pretty clear, not the thing that you want in M+.
It's a lot of small things.
I actually do agree with that. So circling back, what utility do you think is mandatory in dungeons right now?
I mean, I think that we've kind of talked our way into how you can operate without any of these things in particular. I do think one thing that's like not a thing anymore is Shroud. Shroud is not it feels like invis pots just do the whole job now.
I was playing with Evade, and Evade goes, "Do not damage potion in this dungeon if you don't have a stealth already." He goes, "Do not press a damage potion." He goes, "I don't care."
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, I actually agree with that.
I agree with that as well. The just having your invis pot available is very big. You have engineering belt stealth as well. I would never use engineering belts as part of a plan. I would use it like if you die and need to get back to your group, because otherwise the chance of it backfiring across your whole group is very high. Somebody will get a backfire.
Trell was saying that he has high level engineering and that the chance of it backfiring is a lot lower once you get over level 100 engineering, but I'm not 100% sure on any of that.
I've heard that as well, where high engineering skill helps reduce the backfire rate, but I think it's still too high for comfort if you're trying to have the whole group use it.
It's actually really high backfire rate, I think, but...
Yeah, in the Wowhead comments for that thing, somebody said that like it's not just your engineering skill, but it's your other profession and your secondary professions skills that factor into it, which I don't know if that's verified. Obviously, that's just a comment, but if true, that's dumb.
Wowhead commenters are the smartest.
Now, in the MDI, can you level your profession?
In the MDI, you have engineering and blacksmithing. So you have.
Is it maxed?
You have the key unlocks.
Is it maxed?
I think it's maxed. Yeah, I think it just comes maxed. I don't know if they even have stealth belts in MDI. I know they have NG Res.
They should.
They should have stealth belt.
I don't think they have. I think the only thing I heard from NG was Res, but
yeah.
I can't confirm that.
I don't know. This is the kind of thing where they might change. They could potentially change their mind if people like petition them and were like, "Hey, this is something we do on live keys. Can we do it on the tournament realm?" They often try and make the tournament realm look like the live keys whenever possible.
Yeah, I mean, if they said, "Yo, we really want this. This would be cool," and they'd be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
All right, yeah. All in all, I think that the story with this utility is there's a lot of really good stuff you can do. A lot of the top groups are going to have most or all of these pieces of utility. You can work without them, though. As always, you can make it work.
I think the Covenant buffs feel the most mandatory right now, especially in certain situations. Like, not every dungeon is mandatory. I feel like once you start getting really high, Venthyr Halls of Atonement is definitely the most egregious.
Yeah, Venthyr Sanguine Depths, Kyrian Spires, those ones jump out at me.
Kyrian, I don't think Kyrian Necrotic Wake is like super mandatory yet, but because I think that people are still scuffing their route really hard and like losing spears and shit. But I think that once Necrotic Wake starts to get more optimized, Kyrian Necrotic Wake is going to be like you're gonna have to have a Kyrian in there. Like once you start getting higher,
It's gonna
that
represent a lot of
animal
damage.
exhaust is fucking silly.
Does a
It's
lot
like
of damage.
It's like 6% of your overall and shit. You're like, what the fuck?
I think just the nature of tyrannical as well. Lust is kind of important on tyrannical weeks, just because you're fitting the majority of your damage into this pride window.
Mhm.
That
That's a good point.
just stacking lust into a pride window and just killing the boss before it does anything, because any time that you spend outside of your pride window just greatly slows you down. So especially on tyrannical weeks, just having a real lust is just kind of important in my opinion.
I think it's a good point. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Let's move on now to the last couple segments of our show here. We'll do tip of the week, then we'll thank the patrons, and then we'll do Q&A. Starting with tip of the week, though, which normally I should have placed this earlier in the show, but whatever. We're here. That's where we are. My tip of the week is there is a macro you can run to show your Great Vault if you want to look at your Great Vault and you don't want to go and click it in Ouroboros. So I will. It's if you just Google like Great Vault macro.
Can you read it?
You can find it. Yeah, dude. It's like you ever in elementary school did your teacher ever read out like the full URL of a website to you?
Yeah.
/run load add-on Blizzard_weekly rewards frame : show open parentheses close parentheses.
You forgot the open parentheses quotation mark. Blizzard
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of stuff in there, but if you're interested in this thing, this is a good good macro to add to your suite. Or you can, what I did for like a week before I actually made this macro was I just copy pasted it in every time I wanted to look at my vault, and then I was like, all right, I've done this 30 times, I should make a macro button so I can just press it.
There's also a
Yes.
Weekor on Wago that you can like click on the weekly vault in your UI. Let's see if we can find it here. But that one I use because it's really, really nice since I don't have to make a
Great
macro
Vault
with it.
minimap button. Yeah. This is a good tip as well. If you search just Great Vault on the Wago site, you will find a nice set of options. Great Vault minimap button is a really popular one though. That does that. Adds a button to the minimap, and then you can look at it. You can lay your vault really nicely there. So yes, do this is actually better than the macro for sure to do that. So check that out. All right, Squishy, you have another tip for us as well. You're a font of knowledge here.
A font of power. Wait, that was
Yes.
last extension.
Wait a second.
So my tip of the week is
Do you know? Sorry to cut you off. Listeners might not know this, but before every show, 20 seconds before I put us live, I always do this to indicate to the other casters or to the other hosts that we're about to go live, because I'm muted at the time, so they can't hear me. So they just see me doing this, and they know, okay, in 20 seconds we're going.
You were flesh crafting now.
Oh yeah,
could be tranquility.
that's true. That's true. Anyways, sorry to cut you off. What was your tip?
So if you've completed the side quests in Theater of Pain, there's one specific side quest that starts right in front of the the outside arena. Every day you can head back to the Theater of Pain outside area, and there's 105 anima daily quests that you complete, which is fantastic for alts. All you have to do is just go to Maldraxxus, pick up the quest, kill the there's a world quest where you have to kill 2 of the Theater of Pain bosses. You just have to kill one of them. You just kill that one boss, and you get 105 anima every single day. And it's fantastic for alts for getting your 1,000 anima. And many people don't know about it because they never completed the side quests.
Those side quests are really good as well because it gets you the 750 anima quest, right? Is that the one we're talking about?
Completed the side quest.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I love finding those little sources of good anima as well, because you kind of do want a lot of anima this expansion if you actually want to build all your buildings. If you don't care about it, it's not a big deal. If you just want the weekly, honestly, even if you skip the weekly, it doesn't matter as well, because you just catch up next week on the same and just turn in the weekly on weeks where you actually care about hitting Covenant Cap that week, because that's where there's power for you. But this week, for instance, if you miss out on getting to 24 and you only get to 23 or 22, no big deal, right? You're just missing out on.
It depends on your covenant.
Yeah,
there may be breakpoints for certain soul lines.
If you're just missing out on a cosmetic slot or whatever, you just don't even have to worry about turning in your anima weekly. You just do it next week and then get your catch up anima from the world boss or whatever.
But yeah, I mean, just many people don't know about that, so I think it's a good tip because
absolutely
105 per day it adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially if you're parked, like if you're a Necrolord character, it's just right at home. All right, Tettles, let us take a look at your clip of the week. Hang on, I have to set it up. All right,
Ooh,
this is from
it's good tech.
TTV Fired Up. I know what this is going to be actually. Yeah. This is really good tech. This is on this is the Plaguefall third boss. The ads are going to come out, and if you press mirror image, it applies an effect to everything that like taunts it or whatever, taunts the aggro off of you, and that effect actually breaks everything out of stealth.
Yeah, Fired Up would want you to call it Plaguefall Spider Hack.
Yes.
So make sure to refer to it as Plaguefall Spider Hack. Yes.
WTF? Plaguefall Spider Hack?
Yeah, exactly. Dude, in these runs, we did Plaguefall so many times, and every single time we said, why are they standing in Sanguine on the first boss? Because we always pulled the red slime into the first boss, and we just stand there in it the whole entire time. Why are they standing in Sanguine on the first boss? And every single time we got to Domina, Plaguefall Spider Hack?
You guys are goofballs. A bunch of goofballs in that group.
Is there any other class that could do that?
I literally have never seen that. But Henry did that with me the first time I ever saw it in a dungeon, and I told Fired Up about it, and Fired Up did it, and he was like, Plaguefall Hack?
Maybe
and
if you drop like a Black Ox statue, maybe it'd have that effect?
I have no fucking idea.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I mean, with the Majesty Demon Hunter, I mean, this doesn't take long,
you just toss some sigils
Leap
out.
Aura, yeah.
Yeah. Although Sigil of Flame doesn't break them, right? It's got to be one of your other sigils that I think break them. But yeah, Leap Immora does it. Leap Immora. Anyways, let's move on to the
According
thinking.
to Twitch chat, apparently Black Ox statue also works.
Nice. That makes sense. Yeah, because the threat like gets them.
But SEF doesn't work. Okay, maybe.
Right, because SEF doesn't have anything to target onto. It's just stuff that has like the taunt effect. Right? The thing the Mirror Image and Black Ox Statue are doing is they're adjusting the threat bars of the mobs, and that's pulling them out of stealth, I think.
Okay.
Warrior challenging shout.
I bet if you challenging shouted near one of them, it would break it out. I bet.
It's just not global, unfortunately.
Yeah. Maybe, I bet it would, though. Anyways, let's thank some patrons. Thanks all the patrons for the support. We've got some Patreon patronage has been gifted as well in our. So if you're wondering why you've got a higher Discord rank than expected in our Discord, that's perhaps you've got a secret Santa or a secret Winter Veil person thing giving you some extra roles in our Discord for an undisclosed amount of time. But our patrons are Paul of US Proudmore. Soulbinds are just an underdeveloped dating simulator. Trell just couldn't leave Bursting Necrotic behind. Get better soon. Oh my god, Bursting Necrotic, that's a... oh my god.
glad he's home from the hospital now.
Might have to send him back. Tip of the week. Microwave your gushers for 12 seconds. Thank Orignon later. Is that actually a thing? Microwave gushers?
I don't know.
I haven't had gushers in so long. Gopher. Hi, I'm Mac, and I'm a Balance Druid reroll because Melee has cursed this tier. King of Skills, Zuko, Ja, Irish Ratnos' Dino Pillar, Chromed, Seraphicus. Wait, not Seraphicus. Seraphicus is not on this list. I'm so used to reading out Seraphicus' name right there. Trekkie, The Marshare, Regulus, Never Nude, Chewy, Shadowland, aka Sleepy Hypnotized Arbiter, deserted Ouroboros while letting Azeroth newcomers dabble. Pops and Pets, Best Survival Hunter, Zul'jin, Sonara, Fred Ceratops, Gino the Boomer, Necris, Revdil, another DH, Nevuk, Sinmora, Eevee, Frosty K. New Meta, Stevenson, an unnamed benefactor, Take Light of the Protector and Frenzied Regen off the GCD, Woebone Xenoverse, No Trick, I Scheduled a Tettle's Flame, Sire Dematicus, Call the Law Offices of the Sean Gill if you've ever been the victim of the Iron Fur Bug, Dimat, Syncpy, Gamer Dad in Training, 42, Supra, Lufer, I guess I'm a DH main at heart, Hanny is going to pump in Shadowlands, Nyx, My Brother Needs to Play More and Stop Being a Noob, Flick from Ascendance, Pug's Can Time Keys, it's called a trash can, not a trash can't, Gallic, Brusif, Chewy, Dratinus Rats Abyss, When Will My WoW Dad Stop Fighting, Pepe Hands, Dabrowski, T57, M Sanity, Eastbays EU now recruiting, Please Let My Survival Hunter Have a Raid Spot, and Wily Coyote of Barth's PSA, Uwus can retalent at each other's camps. Hashtag Uwu squad over tomes. I assume that means Volpera. Volpera camps are shared
that
rested.
means that they, probably the rat people.
I hate, dude, Volperas, man. let's move on to a Q&A before I get into my Volpera rant. Our first one comes in from City on Discord, who asks, do you think Fortified and Tyrannical are balanced this season? Obviously, as the expansion goes on, Tyrannical is going to get out of control, but as the two are right now, do you think they're balanced?
So I'll field this first, I guess. I think that if you're trying to do a 15 and you are like 215 item level or higher, Tyrannical is your best bet. Because I think you're able to just overpower the boss and like plow straight through it, right? I think that like are Tyrannical and Fortified balanced this season? I think the answer for me is probably not, just due to they've created whenever we were praising them on like not doing this shit where they make bosses that have phases, they made this shit where they have bosses that summon ads and or shield themselves occasionally, and you're just like, oh my fucking god.
Dude, Hakar Tyrannical?
That thing actually has
Necrotic
Wake.
Yeah.
And the banner asshole in Theater of Pain. Like all of them just so you start removing people from the fight, and they have to go down and like run across a bridge or like go PvP one another, and then the boss either shields itself or summons a banner that you have to kill, and you're like,
the banner isn't scaled by Tyrannical unless they change it recently.
Well, it's not about the banner, it's that you're taking two people out of the fight for extended periods of time more frequently, right?
Even if the banner's not scaling with Tyrannical, if you get 5 banners because the boss has more health, right? Each of those banners are going to add more time to the boss on Tyrannical than they would on Fortified, because you're killing more of them. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty clear right now already that Fortified is the easier affix of the two, when in BFA Season 1, that wasn't the case. In BFA Season 1, we can actually look at do a little bit of a leaderboard comparison for the top runs. So like, okay, right now, this is what the top runs look like right now. You can see it's Fortified all the way down. Of course, we haven't had all the weeks yet. This was just last Fortified week. But we're in a Tyrannical week right now, and there was a Tyrannical week the week before this, and we don't see any of those runs up here.
Well, so I mean, to be in all fairness, like the Tyrannical weeks have been hard affixes.
That's true.
And that last Fortified week was an easy Fortified week.
But if you compare this to BFA Season 1, like look at this BFA Season 1. Tyrannical, Fortified, Tyrannical. Fortified, Tyrannical, Tyrannical. Fortified, Tyrannical, right? Like this was a season where it was pretty clear that both affixes were pretty balanced. This has been the only season. BFA Season 1 was the only season in the history of the game where that was the case. Every other season, if you look at them, it is Fortified all the way through, right? It's all Fortified all the way at the top, and I expect that this season will be like that as well.
I personally think it's a two-part issue. One is that, I mean, like you said, but it's exaggerated in the later parts of the season of the expansion. But Tyrannical is a lot harder to do under geared. If you're trying to do a 15 where you're geared, it's generally not that bad. It's a little more chill on trash stuff like that, but you just overpower the bosses, so it doesn't matter. And Fortified, you kind of just blow through it. But especially with Prideful, and especially when pushing. I mentioned this earlier. The amount of time that you spend outside of Prideful is the biggest changer for whether, like, how much time you actually end up saving. So right now you're spending, 60 seconds, 50, 55 seconds inside Prideful. And if the boss is dead in that window, then it doesn't matter. But any time that you spend outside of it just means that the boss is going to take so much harder with less healing, less mana regen, that kind of stuff. And it's only going to get worse.
I also don't feel like there's any pull that's different between Tyrannical and Fortified either, that you're like facilitatedly able to do on Tyrannical that you're not able to do on Fortified, because either your tank can kite the pull or your tank has to pull one pack at a time, and there's like no difference, right? Especially
on live keys, like if you've got some target capped guys in your group, what's the point, right? Why pull 10 mobs when 5 mob do trick? But I don't think that like an MDI we might see some more difference of it. Where like there's big Tyrannical trash pulls that are feasible and you actually get value out of it, but I don't know.
Circling back though, I do think that like wherever you're like slightly over geared or like you are heavily geared, Tyrannical is an easier fix because you're able to still just blow straight through the boss, and then the trash is just like it just hits less hard. But there's like an equilibrium where like the bosses get. There's a point on Hakar where you go from Hakar taking 45 seconds to Hakar immediately takes a minute 45, and like there's no in between. And it's like that moment where you have to take that, like, those 2 extra blood barriers whenever the boss is like 25 and 15%, you're like, holy shit, I can't kill this fucking boss, dude.
Yeah, you just kind of just lose all steam. All your cooldowns are down. You're like waiting for 2 minutes to come back up. You're like, please, God.
Can we
Your
kill this
warrior's
before the
like-
next blood barrier? I don't fucking know if we can, man.
Yeah, your warrior shattering throws to try and help do damage to absorb. You're like, need to break this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just Tyrannical in general, just especially for how the gearing changes, and many people are struggling to get above like 210. Tyrannical is just people are feeling the burn of Tyrannical just because trying to get through Tyrannical 15 or 14 every week is just it's tough to do that under good. Whereas Trash, you wipe, you come back, you killed 1 mob, you now have 3 mobs left, and you kill 1 mob and you have 2 mobs left, or you can CC it to make it easier or
Right.
something, right?
Whereas bosses, you just say like progression, we're doing it, right? We're gonna get through this. But like if you're doing Plaguefall with Tyrannical and you wipe to any boss and you come back and now you're like short of Lust and a Pride and you're looking at it, you're just like, okay, we couldn't do this when we were twice as powerful as we are now. What
dude,
are we gonna
I don't
do?
know. I don't know if you had this issue, but we had an issue where a group in our guild got walled on the 3rd boss of Necrotic Wake the first week, and it's like they ran out of prides and had to leave the fucking key kind of deal, and you're like,
yes. Yeah, I agree. I think the Tyrannical, both for for weekly 15 guys and for high key pushing, is clearly harder than Fortified this season.
I will say that the other thing is many Tyrannical ads don't scale with, or many ads on Tyrannical don't scale with Tyrannical now.
Which is nice.
which is good.
Except they started adding them back recently. Droman on the first boss of Mist scales with Tyrannical health wise. They recently made the Mozala ad scale with Tyrannical, so now they just have more health than Fortified. Wasn't that way on the last Tyrannical week, by the way. Notice this week because I failed to kill my ad because I was saving my Heart of the Wild as Bear for the boss because I can kill this no problem. Noticed it was Tyrannical, didn't kill it. Feels bad. But they've I don't know why they've started adding Tyrannical back to ads, because those are not bosses. That is an ad and it should not be scaling.
Yes, I am inclined to agree that what they do not need to be doing at this time is buffing Tyrannical. That is not the way.
I don't think they know what they're doing with Tyrannical is the issue. Like they want to make the boss fights in dungeons feel more epic, but they end up making the dungeons feel just like not doable on certain levels where I don't know. The bosses in a couple of these dungeons are the breakpoints. Sanguine Depths, Necrotic Wake, I think, are the
Plaguefall. I think is kind of close as well. Where like,
I would agree. Yeah.
Even the first boss of Mist, as easy as Mist is, that first boss adds 2 additional cycles on Tyrannical Week.
Well, yeah, I mean that's time, but like I'm talking about like I like there are dungeons where you can get just walled on a boss.
Right. The experience of like wiping over and over again to a boss is certainly a Shadowlands thing with a lot of these dungeons.
Yeah, and it's like you take Tyrannical and then you just move that bar down like 2 key levels, and you're like, all right, now you can get walled on it at this level as opposed to this level prior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, great.
All right, our last question comes from Durundala TV or Durundal TV. What are your thoughts on the stealth fix or removal of doing the 3rd boss before the 2nd in Sanguine Depths?
I think that's reasonable for them to fix that. I think that's a pretty good change, especially since you could also get the shield, and there was also the weird shit.
There's some weird stuff you could do in there.
Yeah. So I think that them fixing that is fine. I think that them not going and making Tarvald and Crixus, which are the 2nd and 1st bosses, more reasonable is unacceptable in my mind. And also Call. How the fuck do you do Call on like a Disc Priest without running out of mana, man? Like I don't know what you're supposed to do about a couple, like 3 of those fights in that dungeon.
Dude, you life grip the person out of the charge.
Out of the room?
Out of the charge when they're getting charged by Call.
Oh, I'm talking about no.
Oh, you're talking about the gauntlet?
Yeah, the gauntlet. How do you not run out of mana in the gauntlet?
All right, I'll get back to you on that one. I'll I don't have an answer to that.
You just like sack yourself to the trash pack and then
no. All right,
what you do.
Here's the tech. You create your root so you get your 100% pride mid gauntlets. You don't get it for the last boss, but you get full mana in the mid gauntlet.
Okay, all right.
I'm listening. Continue.
I mean, I guess Yeah, because the only thing
That was
if
it?
you fight it at the right time, the only thing you're gonna get is bears onto your pride, right? And that bears are livable. They don't do too much. They only hurt your tank, and your tank is fine on pride. So I mean, that actually might be the strat. No, those aren't. They're not like Halls of Atonement bears that actually track.
That's true.
They're like AFK bears.
Have you noticed? Speaking of that gauntlet, have you noticed that Call does her bleed in melee and then leaps away?
That boss is bugged. Yeah, clearly that's not intended.
Yes, I have noticed my entire group getting stacks of that bleed. Now, one thing that actually all three of us now have in common is we are used to General Call just randomly applying bleeds to our group from Stone Legion generals, so it's not a surprise when it happens in the dungeon as well.
General Call might be the buggiest boss in multiple places in the game. I mean, you could pull Call to the third boss room. Man, that third boss room is getting a lot of bugs. But you used to be able to pull Call to that third boss room and she wouldn't run away. You just do the entire gauntlet there.
No, wait, no, you still are. You're just not able to pull it. You don't pull it into the third boss room, Squishy. You pull it into the hallway, and then he won't run away.
Ah,
that's the tech. Is that you don't take him all the way into the boss room. You take him into the hallway.
But like where the gargoyle is.
yeah.
Yes, that hallway where the gargoyle is. And the overseer and shit, you don't take him all the way. You just take him back most of the way.
I didn't know that, but that's really funny.
I see. Well, a great dungeon, a great mob, General Call. Honestly, General Call and General Grishal are two of my favorite NPCs, but my favorite NPC of this expansion has to be General Draven. Getting stuck in the wall on that fight, not being able to get to path to his targets, but being friendly, so I can't actually take out my wrath on him by attacking him with abilities. That's my favorite one.
We love our commandos getting delayed, so we have to deal with that crystallize every time.
Oh yeah. Anyways, on that note, I think that'll be about the end of our show this week. We will be back in an undisclosed time at some point soonish with the next show. But of course, MDI this time next weekend. So tune in there, youtube.com/Warcraft. Thanks so much for joining us, Squishy. Is there any shout outs, any plugs you want to do for where people can find you? Wowhead.com.
I do a lot of work on Wowhead, articles and things, and I have a Twitter that I should really be using more that I absolutely do not.
Okay.
Sounds like Dranos' Twitter.
Fair enough. Dude, I just post memes. All I do is, every couple weeks I have a good idea for a meme and I tweet it. That's all I do. Anyways, that's the end of our show. Bye, everybody.